I don't like to sully myself with mainstream media. That stuff can rub off on me.
We've said many times before that if there is a person who is emblematic of what is wrong with the Democratic Party, it is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, as the great Bernie Sanders would say. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but she keeps getting invited. You know what I think it is, John? You probably would know this better than we would. But what I think ends up happening is that on the Hill, especially on the third floor rotunda where they get interviewed by, corporate media, that basically they throw it out there to just about everybody. Hey, you want to come on this afternoon? You want to come on this evening? You want to talk? Debbie Wasserman Schultz has never met a camera that she doesn't.
Well, right. I think she's all right. She's
can I just say, she's not alone in that. There is a handful of members of Congress who literally hang around waiting to be there at the moment. And the interesting thing about this is a lot of the people in Congress don't do that, right?
But most don't.
No.
And most Congress people, we don't know who they are.
Out of the 535 federally elected representatives,
we don't know most of them.
How many do you know 30 of them? That's a big number.
It's my job to try and know a few of them. But what I can tell you is this. Let me give you a quick example. John Thune just became the majority leader of the United States Senate. And John Thune is now pretty much the only thing standing between Donald Trump and making, Matt Gaetz and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. members of the cabinet, right? And some of these other nominees. And I don't say that casually. Thune is a right-wing conservative. He's not a great player, but he's had a terrible relationship with Trump for a long time. There's a lot of nuance in there and things that people should know. And yet I would argue right now that most people don't know that.
No.
Yeah.
But we're aware of it to the extent of we knew it could have been Rick Scott.
Who would have been so much worse.
Exactly. So because that's what Peter had said, that he thought that it would be Rick Scott. And so that was my concern. So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, so he's a non-Trump Republican. That's probably a good counterbalance.
Well,
something.
It's an interesting dynamic because Trump as recently as 2022. And by the way, I don't want to get off your Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but as we deviate here for a moment,
we always like a good distraction from Debbie.
Kind of the dynamics about how Congress is covered. Thune has just been completely uncovered because he comes from South Dakota, and it's just too far to send a camera, I guess. But the thing to understand about John Thune is, as recently as 2022, Trump tried to primary him out of the Senate, backing Kristi Noem.
Right.
Stood down. She didn't make the race, and so Thune was reelected. But that's the reality of the relationship. In 2024, Thune actively backed Tim Scott for president. Now, Tim Scott, I'm not here to make the case for Tim Scott or anything like that, but what I'll tell you is Thune chose to go against Trump, even at a point when it was pretty clear Trump was rolling through. The only reason you need to know that is not to love John Thune, not even to be enthusiastic about him, right? But to understand he's the guy we got to pay. That relationship is going to matter a lot one way or the other over the next number of months and years. And our media does not cover politics.
No, well, you're talking about things like nuance and things like the relationship between the majority leader in the Senate and the president and how that could matter. And it's sort of like we need Schoolhouse Rock. We do. Yeah, we do. But you want to play your Debbie clip and get it over with, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stomach watching her sitting there on the screen.
So for a lot of people that are trying to find a reason not to stay in the Democratic Party, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is daring you to leave the party and never look back.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Let's see it.
First, want to acknowledge is that Democrats absolutely have work to do. We have work to do on making sure that we can communicate our message effectively. By message, I mean the substance of what we've accomplished. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which brought massive reductions in prescription drug prices.
You got to think about those words for a second. What reduction? What was the word again that you gave her? What was that? And keep in mind, she's doing this from her home in Weston, so there's also that factor.
Which is of course fine. But
historic.
Can I just jump in here and say,
please. Sure.
They're talking about reducing drug prices, right?
Yes.
Which is a great message. But throughout the whole campaign, I kept saying, if I hear again, that, you should vote for us because we reduced the price of insulin, right, to $35. That, which is fantastic, by the way.
I thought Trump did it though.
No. I give the Democrats for some credit for pushing through, a lot of, but that's not my point. I think that's fantastic. I love that. But why would you mount a campaign where you say, vote for us because we did that, and not mount a campaign that says, if you give us control of the White House and of the House and Senate, we'll do that for every drug, period.
No, because they don't want to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem of the thing. It is like, to run on what you did with the Inflation Reduction Act, to run on infrastructure, which were good things, give them their due, right? But to run on that without coupling it with, and that was, step one on a 10-step ladder, give us the power, we're going all the way up, right? To give people something to vote for. People don't vote on what you did. They vote on what they want.
Exactly. She's so ready to brag about their fierce accomplishments.
Yeah.
All right.
Continue.
Global warming and climate change. We passed the CHIPS Act. We passed the infrastructure bill, and those all created jobs and contributed toward us having the most robust economy worldwide post-COVID. But obviously that message didn't get through, and we were not able to acknowledge consistently the pain that voters feel. And I can hear it from people in my district, and I feel it in my own grocery store when I, go and buy my groceries every week, every few days. We were not acknowledging that there are people who are still struggling to make their daily ends meet. But the problem that we've got is that the communications landscape is so diffuse. There are podcasts and YouTube and WhatsApp messaging, and we have to make sure that we're meeting voters where they are, and we didn't really do a consistent job. But this result cannot be overstated. Yes, Trump looks like he's headed to have won all of the battleground states, but at the same time, we won the Senate race in Nevada, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and likely Arizona. And we are likely, either way, in the House to have the same slim majority, no matter which party ends up. So this was not the wave election that the majority of the media is portraying. Voters had a Trump on the ballot the last 3 elections. We had a very short presidential campaign with our nominee, and there were a lot of other issues as well.
You had over $1 billion.
I mean,
this is a person.
Are we done with her?
I want to be. Can we be done with her?
Fine. We don't have to look at her anymore.
Can't look at her
because
anymore.
honestly,
I don't want to pick on her, except that
it's bad though, right? She's brutal.
Well, I don't want to pick on her per se, except to say that she is, in fact, probably about as close to the center of where the Democratic Party leadership, the establishment, is right now.
Yeah.
As anybody. So she's actually very emblematic of that. And the problem is what she did there was just sort of relitigate the campaign they lost, right? And to say, I guess we should have just said what we were saying during that campaign louder, right? Because that's what they mean when they're saying we're going to meet them where they're at. We're going to use this new crazy social media, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all true. Totally true. There were actually some of us saying that before the election, right? Not after. And one of the reasons that I wrote in October, after having spent quite a bit of time with Sean Fain, the head of the UAW, that they really needed to shift their messaging as regards working Americans. And they needed to amplify some things that actually have a lot of meaning for people in battleground states, but that they weren't talking enough about. For instance, that Trump as president had restructured NAFTA and made things worse, right? He literally, created a circumstance where we lost huge sections of the auto parts industry. I mean, he was everything that you can legitimately criticize Bill Clinton about for what he did in the 90s, NAFTA, China free trade, and stuff like that. Trump had actually, unwittingly, because he doesn't know anything about this stuff, done something worse, right? And the Democrats didn't take that on the trail. They didn't talk about that. And so why I bring that up is because NAFTA in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, that's an issue that every working class person for decades has learned to understand, right? You bring that up, it's a touchstone issue that they can understand well. And if you say, well, here's what Trump did that was really bad about that. And if you actually went to union halls on a regular basis and appeared with Bernie Sanders and Sean Fain, right? Like dare to do that and talk about these issues. Could they have gotten the extra 30,000 votes in Wisconsin? Yes. Could they have gotten the votes they needed in Michigan? Possibly, especially if they had gotten right on Gaza. Could they have gotten the votes they needed in Pennsylvania? Yes. Maybe even some other places. But no, they spent those days, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz is right about this. Very short campaign, 107 days. You got to use every day well. They spent those days when they could have been in union halls, when they could have been appearing with Bernie Sanders and Sean Fain, traveling around with Liz Cheney.